The Israel-Iran conflict enters its fourth day, with both countries launching a new wave of missile attacks, despite growing global calls to de-escalate. Iran says it successfully struck Israel with a salvo of missiles. The strikes have hit an Israeli oil refinery and damaged part of the power grid. Casualties are mounting on both sides, and officials say at least 18 people have been killed in Israel. Israel's defense minister warns that the residents of Tehran will pay the price for strikes on civilians. Now, Iran suffering a higher death toll with at least 224 people killed so far. The Iranian president is urging citizens to put aside differences and unite against Israel as the conflict rages between the two arch foes. All these coming after Israel attacked Iran on Friday, hitting nuclear facilities, military sites, and populated areas. And for more, joining us now is Trent Murray live in Tel Aviv. Now, Trent, could you tell us more about the current situation on the ground?
Well, Angela, it's just going 9 a.m. here local time, and it has been yet another long and fairly difficult night, I think you can say, for the Israelis. Three separate warnings throughout the night, 9 p.m., 1 at 30 a.m. and also 4:30 a.m. with those barrages of Iranian missiles landing across the country. Now, we are hearing that the death toll in the past 10 minutes has climbed to 5, with an 80-year-old man pulled from the rubble. He has joined several others, including 3 women in their 70s. Now, while the Iranians are claiming to be hitting critical infrastructure, we know the search and rescue efforts are concentrated this morning in Petah Tikva. Now, that is a residential suburb, very similar to the ones we have seen in recent days, where homes, apartment buildings are bearing the brunt of the damage, and that is where the civilian death toll in Israel continues to climb. We are being told that search and rescue efforts are continuing at the site here in Tel Aviv, searching for additional survivors, but also not just here, but in Haifa, in the far north of Israel, Israel's third largest city. Israeli media overnight showing fire crews there working to extinguish flames, again in a residential street. Now, we know yesterday at the site of a separate strike, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has visited the scene, saying that Israel, or rather Iran, will pay a very, very heavy price for these barrages of missiles. We know, of course, the Iron Dome and the air defence systems are largely being able to intercept most of them, but inevitably some of them are clearly penetrating and having an impact on the ground. The entire Home Command force has now been deployed with search and rescue crews either working right now or on standby for additional support, as the Israelis are saying they believe that Iran still has thousands of missiles at its disposal.
Right, and speaking of which, Trent, a U.S. embassy was hit by the recent Iranian missiles, but no reported injuries there. So how do you think this recent wave of attacks will impact Iran's negotiations with the U.S.?
Yeah, that's right. The American embassy compound here in Tel Aviv sustained minor damage, according to the US Ambassador Mike Huckabee, saying no personnel were injured, but the embassy now will remain closed today and staff are being told to have a shelter-in-place order at their home. I mean, in many ways, it is a physical blow, but I think you can also describe it as a psychological blow to the Americans, that their embassy, their diplomatic compound, has now been damaged by these Iranian missiles. We are also tracking a fairly significant development being reported widely here in Israel, with flight tracking data showing more than 30 aerial refueling aircraft taking off from US bases. They are currently crossing the Atlantic on a trajectory for what looks to be the Middle East. Early days in all of this, but certainly that open source information suggests a major aerial deployment of US assets. Some starting to question whether the US is looking to step into this military attacks on Iran. They've said so far this is a unilateral action by the Israelis, but they are not taking too kindly to the threats from Tehran to possibly target US bases in this region. You would imagine the US embassy being damaged overnight will also add to those concerns.
Amid those concerns, how are world leaders reacting to these attacks? And also, what are some initiatives that we might expect in the upcoming days to de-escalate tensions?
Look, I think all eyes are on the G7 meeting in the Canadian Rockies, where we know the leaders of the world's six biggest democratic economies are meeting. And we think this is going to dominate the agenda. We're hearing that the Canadians are sounding out other countries about putting out a statement calling either for de-escalation entirely or for blaming Iran for moving ahead with its nuclear enrichment program and bringing us to this situation. We also know that the Iranians reportedly had sent a message to neighbouring Cyprus, of course, that island off the coast of Israel, asking the president to convey a message to the Israelis. But we, of course, don't know what that message is. It's not being publicly shared. I think many in this region are looking at all of this very cautiously amid concerns it could drag the Middle East into a much wider war. But the rhetoric, I have to tell you, from the Israeli government right now is that they are in no way feeling like they are ready to reach any sort of ceasefire. I think they feel that they are emboldened right now. They say they have total air superiority over Iran, and they're going to continue to target military sites as well as the nuclear enrichment facilities.
Trent, thank you so much for bringing us this update. That was Trent Murray in Tel Aviv.